Right. So the site or the place for that gaseous exchange, it is in the alveoli. So carbon dioxide is a waste material or a waste product that normally produce during that cellular respiration where energy is released. So if the human body don't find a way to get rid of that carbon dioxide, then it will become toxic or poisonous. So in the alveoli, the body exchange it, meaning that the circulatory system give off the carbon dioxide to the respiratory system, and at that same time it actually pick up some oxygen. And this diagram is giving you a better idea or a better explanation as to what is known as the gaseous exchange. So the yellow section of the diagram that you are seeing, that the yellow section actually represent our example of a alveolus, while surrounding this tube that you're seeing going right round, that make a circle around the yellow section, which I said that it is known as the alveolus. It is a blood vessel. Now if you look at the arrows, you're seeing they are saying CO2 diffuses out of the blood. So the blue represent the carbon dioxide that is moving out of the blood into the alveolus, and the arrow now is showing that air moves in and out. So this arrow is showing that the carbon dioxide now will be going out of the human respiratory system, so we can get rid of it in terms of breathing it out. While you're seeing the red arrow, which is O2 diffuses into the blood. So this is oxygen. So while carbon dioxide is coming out of the blood into the respiratory system so we can breathe it out, while all of that is going on, oxygen is now leaving the alveolus, going into the circulatory system or into the blood, so that the blood can take it to the different body parts. For example, the brain and your muscles that need that oxygen. So whenever we talk about gaseous exchange, we're specifically talking about this diagram, because this diagram is what explains gaseous exchange to the T. Again, what we're looking at now in terms of the diagram, the image, we're actually looking at an alveolus, just one of them. This diagram now actually showing you more than one alveolus. So we would now say alveoli. So we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So any process that is taking place in one of these alveolus, it is the same process that is taking place in the millions in terms of the others. So we don't need to study all of them. We just need to study one, because anything that is taking place in one is actually taking place in the others. So that image there just show you more than one alveoli, and this one just show you one. So in terms of the structure, again, the yellow section represent the alveolus. So all of the yellow section that you're looking at represent the alveolus, while going right around the alveolus is the blood vessel or the blood capillary. So now we need to just follow the arrows and the labelings. Now the blue dots basically represent carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide now in the circulatory system or in the blood. So this carbon dioxide might be coming from some muscle cells. This dioxide might be coming from your brain, for example, because if the cells of the brain should release some carbon dioxide, then it need to come out of the human body. So how it's gonna come out of the human body is by the circulatory system taking the carbon dioxide all the way from your brain and take it to your respiratory system, which is inside the alveolus there, so that it can exhale or get out of the human body. While all of that is going on, the brain still needs some oxygen. So while that is going on, the oxygen is now leaving the alveolus, going into the same circulatory system, and the circulatory system take it all the way back up to the brain. So when we talk about gaseous exchange, we are talking about that exact point where the human body exchange or get rid of carbon dioxide and take up oxygen in the blood. Right, so once you're being asked to state or give the function for the ear sacs or the alveoli, you just simply said that this is the site for gaseous exchange, or this is where gaseous exchange take place. Right, so the next component or the next part for the human respiratory system is what is known as the pleural fluid, and this fluid is very important. It serves as a lubricant. Now I'm gonna bring up this image. All right, so these are the lungs. So we have one on the right, one on the left. Now surrounding the lung is a cage that is known as the rib cage. Now the rib cage is a compilation of three different bones. So three different sets of bones basically make your rib cage, and those are the ribs, the sternum, which is known as the breastbone, and there's a bone around the back that is known as the spine or the backbone. So those bones basically form the rib cage. Now the fact that rub, if the lung should be allowed to rub onto those bones for extended period of time, then they will actually be damaged. Now the pleural fluid now actually serve as a lubricant, meaning that it prevent friction, it prevent a lot of friction from taking place between the lungs and of course your rib cage. So it actually form as a lubricant or a liquid, because we all know that once you rub something oily, something fluid over two surfaces that are rubbing against each other, then it actually prevent them from damaging each other simply because of that lubricant. So they are saying that the lubricant which allows lung movement during breathing in and breathing out. Now what that is saying is that whenever you're breathing in, the lungs normally expand in terms of size. And the fact that the lungs expand in terms of size means they then get larger. That simply means that the lungs are gonna go closer to those bones that make up the rib cage. So at that particular time, whenever you're breathing in, they might, for example, rub against the bones. And if they should rub against the bones for any long period of time, then then the bones will actually damage those lungs. So that is why the lubricant is very important to reduce what is known as friction there. Next component, the internal or the intercostal muscles. So we have some muscles that are known as, we have two types. We have the internal intercostal muscle and we have the external intercostal muscles. Now these muscles, of course, they actually work in two different ways. So the internal intercostal muscle pull the rib cage up and in when actually contract. So the internal intercostal muscle. So whenever you're breathing, for example. Let's say, for example, you're breathing, you're taking in some air. Now, in that particular moment, whenever you're taking some air, that means you're breathing in. The external intercostal muscles is the one that will actually at work at that particular moment. Because once you're breathing in, the lungs gonna expand in terms of size. Because remember, you're taking in air, so the lungs need to get larger to accommodate the increased amount of air that you're gonna breathe in. So the external intercostal muscles now will actually contract. When the external intercostal muscles contract, they normally pull on the rib cage. So they basically pull the rib cage up and then pull the rib cage out. So if you put your hand on your chest now, for example, and you make a upward movement, that means you move your hand up and next you move it out. When you look at the hand, you will realize that a lot of space is now being created. So that is the same movement that is taking place inside the respiratory system whenever we are breathing in, where the external intercostal muscles will actually contract. And once they contract, those contraction I go pull the rib cage up and then pull the rib cage out. And that is to increase that thoracic cavity there. That is the space that is created by the rib cage. Because the situation is that because the lungs gonna get larger, meaning that the lungs are gonna need more space. They're gonna need more space. So the fact that they need more space simply mean that those external intercostal muscles need to contract or work. Now, the difference between the external intercostal muscle and the internal intercostal muscle is that the internal intercostal muscle then attached to the inside part of the rib cage. That's why they are called internal, while the external intercostal muscles attached at the outside or the outer section of the rib cage to the outside. So that's the only difference between external and intercostal muscle. And then again, they contract based on whenever you're breathing in or breathing out. The next aspect or structure is known as the diaphragm. So the diaphragm, it is also that section that you call your belly button. Now, whenever you're breathing in, if you should put your hand on the tummy region or your belly button, you will realize that it actually go inward. Or some persons normally say that the diaphragm, it flattens. Right, so whenever you're breathing in, the diaphragm or the belly button, it normally go in. Now that inward movement also help to push the rib cage up. Right, so when you're breathing in, if you notice or if you check the belly bottom, you realize that it normally go inwards. That is simple because that once the diaphragm contract, it also help to push the chest region or push the rib cage up so it can expand. Because again, once you're breathing in, once inhalation is taking place, then the chest region where the lungs are accommodated, that region need to increase in terms of size. And that is simply because the lungs gonna get larger, and once they're gonna get larger, then the space around them need to increase. Now, whenever we are breathing out, the diaphragm actually react differently, meaning that the diaphragm normally more it normally go downward. And once you go downward, then it will actually take the pressure off the lungs so that the lungs can get some air out of the human body. Now, breathing mechanisms. So breathing in and out. So once we are breathing in, our inspiration is taking place. So you can use any one of these two terms. So breathing in, or if you want to say inspiration, no problem. Now these pointers basically show you all of the movement, all of the reactions that take place whenever you're breathing in. So whenever you're breathing in, the external intercostal muscles normally contract. So those are the muscles that are attached to the outside part of your ribs, the external intercostal muscles. The internal intercostal muscles relax. So the muscles that are at the inner section or at the inner side of the rib cage, whenever you're breathing in, they don't contract, they have to relax. The rib cage now, the third point is saying that the rib cage, it normally go up and then it go out. And that upward movement and then a outward movement will actually increase the size. And if you want to prove that, you can just simply put your hand on your chest and make one upward movement and then an outward movement, and you will realize that the hand now basically moving away from the body. That is simply because it is showing you that there is an additional space that is being created. The fourth pointer, the diaphragm muscles will contract, and once those muscles are contracting, then the diaphragm itself will flattens. So that is why I'm saying that whenever you're breathing in, or when you take a deep breath and you're breathing, you realize that the belly bottom normally get flatter in terms of its shape. So that is, the belly bottom is the diaphragm. So it normally flattens whenever you're breathing in. As for the lungs volume, it increase. And common sense must tell you that whenever you're breathing in, the volume of the lungs need to increase, because the lungs is now taking in air. So the fact that the lungs is taking in air, then the only way it can take in more air is by it increase in size. Now the second to last pointer, the pressure of the lungs will decrease, because you have to remember that air is being allowed to come into the lungs. So the fact that air is being allowed to come into the lungs, there is no way the human body can make that, there is no way the human body can allow the pressure to be too high in the lungs. If the pressure is too high in the lungs, then it will basically force the air back out of the lungs. And the human body don't want that to happen while you're breathing in. So as a result of that, the air pressure in the lungs normally decrease. And the last point I was saying, while all of the above is taking place, air can now be allowed to force into the human lungs. So this is what is known as the mechanism, all that normally take place whenever you're breathing in. Now, whenever you're breathing out, there's the total opposite that is taking place. So it is the reverse that is taking place now. So this time it is the internal intercostal muscles that will contract and not the external one. So while the external one relax and the internal one contract. Now the rib cage, as for breathing in, the rib cage was actually moving up and outward. This time for breathing out, they are saying that the rib cage move inwards and move downwards. Now, why the rib cage need to move inwards and downward is that when it come in and down, it actually puts some force on the lungs to actually help to push the air out. It is just like a balloon. If you are a football, let's say for example you have one football and you are going to let out the air. When you put the needle in the football, if you want the air to let out faster, you're normally going to apply pressure, means you're going to squeeze it. So it's the same thing with the human lungs. The human body wants to get the carbon dioxide or the air out of the body as quick as possible. So it's going to put some additional pressure on the lungs so that it can force the air out faster. So that's why the rib cage move inwards and downwards. This time the diaphragm muscle going to relax. While you were breathing in, the diaphragm muscles, they were contracting. So now we're going to relax. And they are saying that the diaphragm now goes back to its original dome shape. So the belly button normally have a kind of roundish shape. The volume of the lungs decrease, because remember that air is being allowed to come out of the lungs, So the volume of the lungs are going to decrease. The pressure now need to increase, because air is now being allowed to force out of the lungs. So because of that, then the air pressure in the lungs need to actually increase, so that the air can be allowed to force out of the body as quick as is possible. So in terms of differences, persons should know what take place once you're breathing in versus what take place when you're breathing out. So that is known as the mechanism of breathing. So the breathing mechanism is basically what take place whenever you're breathing in and what take place whenever you're breathing out. All right, so in terms of concept, that's basically all that I'm going to explain for today, because a person should know that there is a PTA that is scheduled for your parents. Now it's 2:30. I was being asked to set up the meeting and all of that, to actually open the meeting room from 2:30. So I'm gonna end class now and move over to that PTA meeting, because I'm gonna set up the link for the meeting and open the room at 2:30. So next class I will pick up and continue the explanation. So in terms of notes, you need to write the notes, especially what I would have complained. So see you next time, students, and please remember to indicate in the WhatsApp group that you're present for the class.